No.
Oh,
cool. It's like a little.
So we have some reading. No?
Wait, what?
There was no reading.
Oh, there was no reading? Oh, it's really neat. I keep thinking there's reading. And it seems to me like this is sort of a complicated thing to me. I have a little, it takes me a long time to read Professor Berger.
Yeah.
So I took out the most boringest chunks.
Thank you, by the way. It was
Yeah.
nice.
Well, I was sitting there doing the reading questions for it, and I was like, man, this is a lot.
And he is interesting. I don't know.
He is interesting.
He is.
He's a little bit nuts.
Yeah.
He's one of those people that you can just tell he's super smart and just has all this energy. And when you're a budding grad student like I was many moons ago, it was my first big conference, and he was there, and he listened to my stupid nonsense first year grad student idea that I thought was so brilliant, and he just looked really interested. I found out later that he wasn't, but he's a really nice guy. Any questions on the reading?
Number 2, what is the function of the third party in the discourse of honor?
Yeah, that's a big one.
So you're meant to like just be a witness to it?
Yeah.
Like give an example of two people like fight in the woods and one dies and the other gains honor. Who is he to say?
Yeah, that's
what
not really
happens?
honor. Yeah. Yeah.
Number 17, how is the war between men also a war against women?
Yeah.
Not yet.
That was weird.
An expression of desire and attending to the more permanent state of bereavement.
Wait, what?
That'll get the correct answer, but it doesn't explain it. Give it a try.
I think it's because the men are out like fighting and stuff or whatever, doing their own thing. The women aren't getting their needed affection or whatever. Like Hotspur's wife is always complaining that she doesn't get enough attention or whatever, and so he's not attending or whatever it was to her, and so it's a war against women because it's also not giving them the affection to them.
Yeah, that's not wrong either, but there's another angle. Wait.
I said, where'd it go? A war against the frailty ascribed to women. That's kind of what I got.
Yeah, that's two. All of these are going on. Anyone else wanna add to that? Yeah.
It's killing their husbands.
Well, that too. I mean, yeah, I think the thing that he's specifically trying to get at is because he starts off with you remember Hotspur is for Berger was sort of symptomatically irritated at the popinjay, right? And so he's sort of so his battle for honor is also a battle against his own sort of feminized position that you get put in when you because I'm not making it any clearer, I can tell, because I've actually confused myself. And I knew it before then. Well, the point is that for honor, you've got this woman in the background that's giving you honor. And so every time you get some honor, you're also giving her honor. And this will be clearer at the end of today's lecture. Maybe we should do the lecture first and the quiz after.
That sounds good. I agree with that too.
Okay, let's try that. That might help this time. But let's get the questions out though, because we might not cover everything. Yeah.
How do Mortimer's vagaries contaminate Hotspur and by what?
What question is that?
19.
Thank you.
Anyone? Sweet, the whole class was stumped on that one. That must be it. Yeah.
Well, the link is his marriage, right?
Right.
His marriage is his link to Mortimer. And then I thought it was that Mortimer's vulnerabilities reflected on Hotspur. Something like that.
Yeah. So we have the sort of chain of corruption. So let's recall now what happens to Mortimer. So he gets into trouble to begin with because he is fighting against Glendower, right? And then how does that turn out? Yeah, so he gets captured by Glendower, and then marries Glendower's daughter. And I mean that's not supposed to happen, right? Is it when you become a prisoner of war? Yeah, and then so that puts so he's contaminated by and we'll look more at this scene too. But it's that sort of corrupt femininity at the end of the chain, and then because Mortimer's his wife's brother, the femininity kind of gets corrupted that way too, and so his link is through his woman to the corrupt femininity, even though his woman per se is not the corrupt femininity. Yeah.
And then what was like the paradox of honor for 26?
Yeah.
So I got the accent of honor is inseparable from the weakness and uncontrol that the discourse of honor makes, which makes it shameful.
Yes, and I mean that's totally right, but I feel like we need to translate it.
Yeah.
So basically, Hotspur's kind of bound to society and like a bunch of factors that were listed in there. I don't remember exactly what they were. But in his speeches, he tries to falsify that he's bound to them and that it's interfering with his honor. In doing so, he's actually contradicting himself with his words.
Yes. Yes.
What would be the short version?
Yeah, that's sort of what we're looking for. So we keep getting the right answer, but and it's like, yeah, I understand that, and I'm looking at you guys and
To have honor, you must also have weakness, but weakness is the opposite of honor, so it's kind of paradoxical because you can't have one without the other.
yes. It's more complicated than that, but that's the short form. Yes. Okay. Yeah.
16, how is resting in your wife's lap a threat to male autonomy? I think I saw it in the text that it was really like.
Okay, so what he's referring to is he talks about one of my areas of specialization, as it turns out, Book 2 of Spencer's Fairy Queen. When is anyone familiar with Spencer's Fairy Queen? Oh, it's a shame. It's that is a hoot. Okay, so there's this knight who gets the unlucky designation of being the Knight of Temperance. So you know, as soon as you know what temperance is, sort of the male version of chastity, and he's the knight of that, which is funny. But you know, of course, in the laws of medieval romance, as soon as you're the knight of temperance, what does every woman on the earth try to do to you? So he goes through wandering through various entrapment mazes to try and compromise his temperance, and one of the key figures is Phaedria or Phaedria, depending on which teacher you have, and her thing is she kind of just this hippie chick, and she's got flowers in her hair, and she just wanders through the woods, and she grabs knights and takes them to her little island and lays them in her lap and sings to them, and then they go to sleep, and then she leaves and goes and gets another one. And so that's the Phaedria he's talking about, and then Acratia actually turns them into pigs and various animals and stuff, a la Circe. So this was this is sort of the trope of a dominant image of emasculation, emasculating image. I'm trying to say masculinization, and I'm not sure that's the word. So you go in the lap and you get rocked to sleep, and then you're no longer a knight. You're debooted. So when he's laying in her lap, that would very much people who study this. It's like aha, that's not good. He's probably not going to show up to the war. And sure enough. All right. Any more?
23, how does Northumberland's affection recast the renounce?
Hotspur wants to surpass all of the fathers in terms of honor, and by Northumberland dropping out, it's basically saying that, oh, Hotspur's still in, so he's more honorable than Northumberland.
Yeah, and there's other answers to that too, but that suffices as well. Yeah.
14, the earthquake had accompanied thunder.
Yeah.
Was it bad gas?
Yeah. Yeah, Mother Earth has some bad gas.
According to Berger, how does Falstaff present himself as a target for Hal?
What number?
This is 7.
Anyone?
When he's like, insulting Hal and kind of like daring him to like insult him back. He like calls him
Yeah, kind of that. Maybe more so. Does anyone have the text? Can they look at it? That might be yeah.
I think the text says that he persistently probes beneath the madcap bull to lay bare aggressive motives that Harry tries to conceal even for himself. Or from himself.
Yeah, so as we talked about that, the how there's when they're play fighting, there's an actual real hostility that sort of covers over and makes okay. It's like if you really hate somebody, the joy that you get is like, man, I hate you, and you say that you're kidding, but you're not. That sort of thing. No one's ever done that. So yeah, the point that Berger's getting at, and I think this is why he's such an important Shakespeare critic, is that he can always show that the way that things turn out, when they turn out badly for characters in Shakespeare plays, is always what they wanted all along. And so what Berger's point is, and you can't really get it all the way here because you have to. Because the rejection of Falstaff takes place in part 2, which we're not reading. But that Falstaff was setting himself up to be rejected all along. He was compliant in his downfall.
But why do we want to have a downfall?
Why do we want to have downfall? I mean, this is
He doesn't care about honor or anything, so why would he want that? If he just wants to live in his little tavern world. Right?
Yes, but we're all such complicated things.
Maybe he really does want that.
So just we'll take a short digression here. Remember when I hypothesized when he was blaming Hal for corrupting him, and I said, well, I think that maybe he might be telling the truth. And then if you look at any sort of how aware of our motives are any of us? But he's sort of getting fattened up to be Hal's sacrificial turkey for his little scapegoat logic. He's going to take the blame for all of the nonsense that Hal was doing.
Yeah, but he wants to do that willingly,
There's a trade-off, so think like masochism and our good friend Helena as a different version of kind of the same thing. We have our social roles, and so a good sort of cognitive metaphor is something that you encounter in a therapeutic situation a lot is people with a certain self-concept of themselves as like a loser. If they win, it's traumatizing to them, and like they can't deal with or in relationships this happens a lot. Somebody will be in a fulfilling relationship and they can't handle it because that's not how they picture themselves.
So Falstaff loves Hal so much that he's going to take the fall for him? Is that what you're saying?
Or that he hates him so much that he can't live with the relationship anymore. You could spin it a lot of different ways. Yeah.
Number 11, something else that bothers Oscar. I thought it said something about guns and unions.
I think those things were bothering him. Like there's a bunch of things that are bothering him, but the something else that he's talking about is that he says that warfare is no longer glorious. And it gives the image of like guns and everything. It's less personal and less honorable than fighting with swords. I think back in the day.
Not wrong. Does anyone want to add to that?
I just got that he was mad that this guy had probably never touched a gun his entire life, and he was criticizing people who were like.
Okay, yeah, that was the something, but then there was the something else. I think Berger was kind of nudging you toward that Hotspur hated his inner popinjay, that he was sort of implicated by So sort of, like the old truism, I don't know how true it is, that homophobes are all secretly gay or something, I don't know if that's true. They've probably done a study, I haven't read it.
How did Berger know that Henry knew that the crusade was off?
He planned ahead of time to make an issue of the president.
Yeah.
What exacerbates the personal affront Hotspur feels from the king?
What question?
21.
Is it compromising his mind?
Not wrong.
It's like he's accepting the fact that he knows that he's compromising his own. Something like that.
Doesn't the king think he's doing it like he's compromising his own honor deliberately? So it makes it even worse for him to be knowingly in the wrong.
Yes, all three of these. So we just keep twisting it, and you can probably keep twisting it forever. He knows that 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 he knows that. So, mise en abîme. You guys know mise en abîme? It's like two married with this long thing, or the David Hasselhoff crotch loop. You should look that up sometime. Okay. Well, it's just he's got a picture of himself on a Speedo, and it keeps going in, but it goes in, and then he's standing in a Speedo, and then he's standing in a Speedo, and then he's standing in a Speedo, and he's standing in a Speedo. It's the classic example of insanity. All right, I think we've gone over all the questions. Are we sure we don't want to take the quiz now that we're sort of primed? Let's vote. Everybody close your eyes. Hands for the quiz now. Quiz after the lecture. Sorry, quiz after the lecturers. Somebody said 3.
Can
pass them up.
Or could they have an IQ of a 12-year-old?
That's the question.
Is there an actual rock?
I do. My brother was like that.
I write my name on there.
No, he did not. We didn't even have one either.
Well, I tried to set up the puppy cam in my house. Yeah, I had the dog.
Yeah. Oh my god, I feel like my dog like having a white
Yeah, and then at some point you just don't want to know. You're like, stop it! Stop it! Complete.
You can't do anything about it.
All right. So, who are the 3 parties in the discourse of honor?
2 people fighting over it and the third party.
Yeah, and so who bestows it?
A witness.
Right. How does the hero triumph over death? Yeah. Or stages it, writes it, narrates it.
Wait, I
chooses
thought
it.
one was a trick question when it said bestows, because isn't honor you're not supposed to like, the point of honor is that it's not bestowed or like it's not
You caught my little joke.
a thing?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
I was trying to be very burgery there. What is the basis of Glendower's power according to Berger?
Weakness.
Yeah, victimization. What relationship to the mother country does Gad's Hill evoke to promote the idyllic society of thieves? I knew you guys would remember that. They're nothing if not predictable. Explain how the victim's discourse works in 2 or 3 sentences.
I kind of related it to Ralphie from A Christmas Story.
Yes.
Like, basically, you make a mistake, you don't take responsibility for it, and then you play a victim. So, like, he shoots the gun, backfires, and hits him, and then doesn't he, like, blame it on an icicle, and then he, like, cries?
That is a great example. Can I take that next time I? All right. Yeah,
Wait,
exactly.
That's hilarious.
What was the icicle? I don't remember it.
He shot the gun, hit himself, and then blamed an icicle.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, anyone else want to try theirs out? Because sometimes, I mean, the advantage of what we're doing now is like if you say, you know, like, if you say, I said this, and I say, well, no, then you can defend yourself now. You can defend your quiz answer now. And so if you put something crazy.
Well, I just said, like, you know, you set up somebody to do something to wrong you somehow through the use of your agents, so that they either wrong you through by choice or by ignorance. And then you pretend you had no idea, and you're the victim, and then you use that knowledge to curry sympathy and get people behind you to get either rid of that person or get something you want from them.
Yeah. And so, of course, the ultimate paradigm example is, you know, the mother, right? The overbearing. For Berger, it's the Jewish mother because he's Jewish. But, I've sacrificed everything for you and your body, and you can never pay it back, right? So she's the ultimate victim, and there's nothing you can do except give birth to her. And even then, she would have had something. All right. How is gift giving conceived as an act of aggression?
Because the person who gives the gift is the aggressor, because the person who receives it, if they're dealing in terms of honor, the person who receives it feels like they have to give another gift back to them, and that has equal or greater value to show that they're like the manlier man or whatever, and are the most generous. And whoever gives like the better gift, I guess, has more honor, I guess.
And this, of course, works exactly the same way that the victim's discourse works, right?
Yes.
The gift of life. I've been victimed. I've given you this.
Oh.
Yeah. So one connection that Berger does not make explicit is the one between receiving a gift and being feminized, which is weird because this whole article is about gift giving and being feminized. But so I want to look at this and just think of gift giving just how we give gifts. Nice giving of gifts. All right, and so you know, like, why do we give gifts? Show affection.
Curry loyalty.
Yes.
Sometimes so that people will give them back to us, reciprocate it.
Mm-hmm.
To win another person.
To win another person.
Because of tradition.
Tradition.
Pressure.
Pressure. Obligation. This is, you know, like, and I really don't care about Uncle Larry, but he gets me a present every Christmas. Anger. Well, the what do you think? Let's go back into primordial time, and let's sidestep the, well, in the biblical narrative. What's the first gift?
Eyes.
I was gonna say you give gifts to show off.
Yeah, to show off. Now the first. So go back to the garden.
Apple.
Yeah. So anthropologically speaking, if we're going to step out of the biblical narrative into the anthropological one, what do you think the first gift? There's because you know, like things like chimpanzees, for instance, give gifts. What for?
I think it's a test of dominance. I mean, if you accept the gift, you're showing you're subservient. And if you
Yeah.
reject it.
Okay. Now hold that thought, because I think that you're right. But the gift is meat, and what you get in exchange for the gift is
What?
sex.
Oh.
So there's chimp prostitutes. It's there's a big meat for sex scheme going on.
That happens.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
for meat. Well, it happens in hunter-gatherer societies through the Sharanahua in Peru. It's the same thing. It's just and it's great because the anthropologist that studied them she's a feminist, and she's trying to figure out, it's like, I don't know if you know, there's no signs that men enjoy sex more than women, or that women like meat more than men, and yet this exists.
Nice.
They just really like meat. And apparently it's not I mean, you can't prove that these things were universal in hunter-gatherer cultures, because we only have so many hunter-gatherer cultures. But so typically, as the infamous anthropologist Donald Simons has argued that he looked at all of the anthropological records of all known cultures, and then he's looking at in male-female sexual relationships, and he's excluding paid prostitution, and he's excluding marriage. The same thing. But just kidding. Just kidding, honey. So and then there was 5 scenarios. One was the only men give gifts. 2, exchange gifts of relative value. 3, gifts are exchanged with no mention of value. 4, women give a higher value gift. And 5, women only gave gifts. So what do you think the spread is here? Yeah, so 79% of known cultures, only men give gifts in sexual relationships. And 5%, there's a relatively equal value. And 16%, there's no mention of value in the gift exchange. And in no known cultures, do women give higher value gifts, or do women only give gifts? So so we're going back to our mimetic triangle here, and this is not, we're not intending to be, we're just talking about social positions, and like we're not like naturally saying anything, because Simons actually says that this makes women economically dominant because they determine the mechanism of exchange. So 95% of prostitution patrons are male, and 97% of people who pay for pornography are male, although females apparently watch porn and just won't pay for it. Monkeys too. Monkeys will pay for pornography, but only the males. They do. They can pay with this little, they can sacrifice juice squirts that they would otherwise get. And they'll sacrifice juice squirts to watch pictures of dominant males or females in heat, but most especially dominant males with females that oh wow. It's hard to get funding for these studies.
Why did you read that study? I'm trying to find Susan.
It's a quest for knowledge, man. So, another anthropologist, we're going to go back in time a little bit here, Marcel Mossberger talks about him. Studied aggressive gift-giving in various cultures, present and extinct. And the most famous was anyone heard of the potlatch that they have in Northwest, they used to have in Northwest American Indian cultures? Can you give me a little bit of scoop about the potlatch? You don't have to.
I don't remember so much, but I do remember hearing about it.
Okay, yeah, so it's this big gift-giving extravaganza. And it's very explicit, the rules of the gift giving is failure to give or accept a gift is tantamount to a declaration of war. And whoever gives the bigger gift, and it's not just giving gifts, like the ultimate thing to do is to get all of your prized possessions and like stuff that everybody wants, is put it in a big fire and burn it or throw it in the ocean. And it's just to show that you can. And then so if you throw more stuff away than the chief from the other tribe, then you the man, and he's it's the equivalent of giving a gift. So this is how you establish the hierarchies between these I don't know, tribes not there, because they could be in the same tribe, like clans, I forget the term. I don't know much about these things. But so inability to match the gift value, it pretty much indentures you. You're pretty much just a servant to the bigger gift giver. And then we switch it to traditional European, especially Northern European warrior cultures. Think Vikings, Beowulf. Does anyone know how these societies worked at all? So you had we're gonna get a nice load of this in our next play, Macbeth. You have thanes and that are retainers, and there's a king. And the idea is that the king buys the loyalty of the retainers who go to war for him by giving them gifts. And so, basically, the king is the guy that can give everybody gifts, and that's what makes you king. So if you can't give gifts, you're not a king. And somebody else will give gifts, and everybody goes and hangs out at his mead hall and gets hammered, gets eaten by Grendel's mom, and that sort of thing. So there's this, and then we get to the feudal system, which is sort of you know, the Henry plays are in a kind of a weird place where it's feudal going toward, you know, sort of later aristocratic, but you still see figures, particularly who's like the warrior culture people in Henry IV that are still kind of warrior culture, like that kind of remind you of Beowulf. I know you've seen the movie. Yeah, Welsh and Hotspur's code of honor too, because the big thing that you want is fame, and you know that you don't care if you die as long as you get fame. And then of course Homeric Greece, you know, kings must bestow gifts on traveling or visiting warriors, princes, and kings to prevent them from going home and bringing back an army and taking everything by force. So you give, you know, Odysseus comes, you know, naked at your door, washed up. You know, you better give him some big cauldrons and some, maybe a daughter or two. And cauldrons is the big brass cauldron. That's the thing that I was like, oh man, they just throwing these cauldrons around. Apparently they were a big thing, like gold, you know. And then so you know, so he leaves and he's happy. He's like, all right, so he fulfilled the obligation of courtesy and hospitality. And Zeus, of course, is the god of what? Hospitality. Yeah, it's the big thing. Remember the Trojan War?
Yeah.
Something about a violation of the law of hospitality, and that's why the Trojans couldn't win, because it was Paris that violated the law of hospitality when he abducted / seduced / eloped with, who was it? Helen? Something like that.
What, so that king was expecting Odysseus to come back with an army and take them if he didn't give him like the back of the winds or something?
Well, no, it was Menelaus who was because it's funny, right? Because the most beautiful woman ever is just sort of with this sort of oofalump guy. But so he goes like, yeah, stay here, my wife will entertain you. I gotta go run some errands. He comes back, all of his stuff is jacked. His wife's gone. and then, but it was Odysseus' fault, because Odysseus made everybody swear at when Helen was on the market, that because they were all just going to fight, you know, and all kill each other for her. And he's like, no, we'll go with whoever the father chooses, but we all have to swear that whoever the father chooses, everyone has to defend him when invariably somebody compromises Helen. And so Helen chose Menelaus because of some adjacent lands or something like that. And the fun begins. Anywho, in all of these contexts, you see that whether it's prostitutes or chimps or things and kings, that gifts confer obligations, and which is fine as long as everybody's happy in their place. But for the I've just incorporated dominant Y into my lexicon. I like that because it's better than saying alpha males, right? For would-be dominant Ys who don't want to be anybody's mistresses or subjects, gift getting becomes a problem. So let's think about our play for a second. So who is the biggest gift getter in Henry IV Part 1? Who gets the biggest gift? Who is obliged? So let's take it on. Let's make it on the board. So I'll say we'll just keep track of the thing and forget about the last act, because this will change. So what does Hal get from anybody? What's the last act?
A bill?
A bill?
Yes, he pays for all of Falstaff's everything, so basically he just gets
So he's giving gifts. So we've got Falstaff gets
Free stuff.
bar bill. Anything that Hal gets though. Does father give him any honors? Anybody give him any props? Anybody buy him a drink? Anybody bestow a kiss?
I think they were all talking about how when he becomes king that he should be nice to them, be nice to the people. I don't think they ever said.
Well, they're expecting, but nobody. This is things that he receives. So let's say let's go Hotspur. What does Hotspur receive?
Praise.
Yeah, but to his face?
Well, rejection from the king.
Yeah.
Ask something about Hal.
Okay.
A rank and trust.
From who?
His dad.
But his dad explicitly says that he wishes that if it was in his dad's power, he would not, right? It was sort of, you know, he kind of owes, you know, patrilineal.
Didn't Hal like say, I'm gonna do all this and this, and then his dad just immediately says, I completely trust you now, and now you're in command of this.
Yeah, last act though, right?
Yeah.
The king kind of compliments him when he says that he wishes he was swapped with Hal.
You mean, yeah, but to his face. So
Oh,
we
no.
got to think of our honor triangle here.
Oh, because it has to.
Yeah, because he's got to get his honor. Well, I can't think of anything. How about Mortimer? Yeah. And what happens with Mortimer? Off the map, he becomes Glendower's / Glendower's daughter's, you know, subject, right? He's no longer, he's unmanted, and that was just a wife. So let's talk about how about old Henry IV. What does he get? The kingdom. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Well, I mean, but I mean, this is sort of, but the kingdom is a gift, right? Or at least that's how who reads it, right?
I have a question. Does someone have to know that they are receiving honor in order to have honor? Like, I know that someone has to bestow the honor on someone, like society does, like it has to be acknowledged, but does the person
So think
receiving
of
it actually
think
have
of it like a gift. Like if I gave you an A and you never knew about it, would you really have gotten an A?
Well,
But then you see it.
Well, not if you never look at your GPA, they'll still help you get your.
Okay, what if I don't tell? What if I just tell Blake?
Well, then it's not worth it.
well, he thinks
I'm just standing around with Blake and I'm like, yeah, Cliff, man, A.
Well,
But I never tell him. I never mark it on the ledger. The ledger. With my strumpet.
Well, then one person would think that was honorable, right?
Yeah, I don't think it can. It doesn't count as a gift to me. Let's look at the king. All right, page 16, Act 1, Scene 3. So this is when the king tries to assert his authority, as Carmen would say. Authority. I haven't watched that in forever. Cool. Good time. All right. Can I get a king?
Does it have to be good?
No. I don't want it to be good.
Starting at my blood.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. My blood hath been too cold and temperate, and apt to stir at these indignities, and you have found me. For accordingly you tread upon my patience. But be sure I will from henceforth rather be myself, mighty and to be feared, than my condition which hath been smooth as oil, soft as young down, and therefore lost the title of respect, which the proud soul ne'er pays, but to the proud.
Thank you. And that was not terrible. So so what is he doing?
Basically saying that he hasn't really been himself, and now he wants to revert back to his old self, which is like.
So he's putting his foot down, right? I've had enough of these shenanigans. I've been letting you kids roll over me, but now I'm putting the hammer down, and we're going to get everybody back in line because I'm going to be myself again, whatever that means. Well, how is that received? In trembling fear. Can I get a Worcester?
Our house, my sovereign liege, little deserves the scourge of greatness to be used on it, and that same greatness too, which our own hands have halt to make so portly.
Okay, so what's happening there? All right, Mr. Big Britches.
Remember who made you.
Guess who bought you those big britches, buddy?
Yeah.
Or you start shaking your finger at me, so, well, that doesn't work, right? So he goes, well, shoo, which, you know, like we know from Richard III, what is he supposed to do when somebody does that? Kill him. You can't just, you can't let this stuff go. And So the subjects don't feel like they're the king's subjects, right? They feel like that he's theirs, and they've given the gift of the kingdom, and they've got this infinite demand for the return of the obligations.
Why didn't they just make a democracy or something? That seems to be what they want.
It's too complicated. All right. So we saw on Monday that that one way that he seems to have even sort of internalized, you know, this feminized position of the receiver of gifts, because remember, let's put this on the board. So here's our triangle, and this is this is the receiver of gifts, and we'll say this is the bestower, and this is the witness. And who are our receivers? We'll say female chimps, prostitutes, canes, slaves. So if he's down, if his thing is the receiver of the gift of the kingdom, right? So we're going to start. We should, if Berger's thesis is correct, we should start. He should sort of to be in this subject, and not that women are naturally in a subject position, but by the ordering of society that's considered that way, especially if you're a guy. And so you don't want to be that. So he's feminized, which is not really good. And Worcester sees this. Let's go to page 25. Worcester. So we're on 13280. Would you like to continue Worcester, or should we have a new Worcester?
I can continue.
Thank you.
And 'tis no little reason bids us speed to save our head by raising of a head. Forbear ourselves as even as we can. The king will always think him in our debt, and think we think ourselves unsatisfied, till we have found a time to pay us home, and see already how he doth begin to make us strangers to his looks of love.
Okay, so now we see the thank you. That was lovely. Now we see the victim discourse coming in, right? So instead of them being the aggressors of saying, hey, he owes us, and we deserve our thing, so we're going to go take it from him. The victim's discourse twists it, and it's like, well, since he thinks that we're going to think that he owes us, that he's not going to let us stay around, so we have to kill him so he doesn't punish us for not being able to pay back his debt to us. Clear as mud? All right, so let's we'll take it one step. So we know that he is obliged to the people, that the king is obliged to those that gave him the crown and the kingdom, right? And we know that they think that he owes them, right? So what he's saying is he knows that the king knows that they think that he owes them, right? We're still on board? So now, to prevent the king knowing what he's knowing that they know, they have to attack him to keep him from attacking them, because he knows that they know that he's obliged to them.
Why don't they just talk about it?
Well, that's a lousy play, man. And, well, they try, right? I mean, it keeps popping up. So,
yeah, I guess.
So, and like, it's not the attack as a form of aggressive defense. It's not. He's not the last one that used that logic for starting a war. So now let's go to 95. we've got this poor me contest going on. And then this is again, because this keeps popping up, right? Hotspur, we won't read the whole thing, I'll just read the first few lines. The king is kind, and well we know the king, and this is the context for this, does anyone remember? This is Blunt coming over to try and talk about it, as Cliff suggested. So Blunt comes up with the terms, seem like pretty good terms. The king is kind, and well we know the king knows at what time to promise and when to pay. My father and my uncle and myself did give him that same royalty he wears, and when he was not 26 strong, sick in the world's regard, wretched and low, a poor unminded outlaw sneaking home, my father gave him welcome, blah 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 blah. So it's the same dilly again, right? He owes us, wham wham wham. And Blunt's like, pooh. I came not to hear this. It's all over. We all know this. So it's just, it's poor guy. So this is this epic poor me contest going on. So and the king is not in a position to give anybody anything, right? Except what? What can the king give? Honors, right? But who wants them? Let's see. Hotspur, I think, is the most complicated. Let's start with Worcester. So now he's in a position in the scene that we're just in. He can grant forgiveness, right? So that's another thing he can give. But for Worcester, as we see on 5.2, page 103. We need to start bringing our books in. Is that okay? Is it okay for me to say that? I'm putting my foot down. Well, it's a gift. You come to class. I mean, you're deaf. I'm probably going to kill you.
Have to make a preemptive strike.
So the liberal and kind offer of the king that Worcester brings up recognizes that it's a liberal and kind offer. So why can't we take it? Yeah, it's the same thing again. And do we know that he will? Well, he hasn't so far, right? I mean, if he's going to get any sense, it doesn't seem to be now. But it's just it's unendurable because of the obligation that it imposes, right? Then they're receiving the gift of their wives, which is pretty close to a kingdom. If you're the life that's been given, right?
It's one of the biggest gifts that can be given.
Right. And then just the thought of that is unendurable, and they would rather die than have the gift of life from Henry IV. Now that makes sense, right?
People need counseling.
Well, Worcester, he also says that essentially he'll be blamed as the instigator. So regardless of whether or not everyone else is forgiven, he won't be. So he's kind of like, his neck's on the guillotine anyway.
Yeah.
He doesn't really care about nobody else. Just we either win or we lose. But
Yeah. If he's right.
Well,
yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, I think it's. I'd kill him. Remember,
I would too.
Crumbo 2016. Want to be on the right side. And then, so then does Hal accept? I mean, if you look at it a certain way, I mean, Hal seems to have engineered a whole lifestyle to avoid taking any honors from Pops. It just makes it impossible. Like his place at court is taken by the younger brother. Just like, do not give me any presents. Like you've never had like a suitor that was using the current slang, a suitor that like kept trying to take you out to dinner, giving you flowers and buying you chocolates, and you don't take them because what happens? You don't want to be obligated, right? This has never happened to anyone. Wow, times have changed. So all right. So then we got Hotspur, and so there's a place where Hotspur could receive big honors, right? Where is it? Before the war, he's got a chance to really get some props. He went and he completely dominated the opposition, as we say in basketball. and has all these noble prisoners. How can he get honors? And probably a really strong place of court, and arguably even the inside track to the. What does he do? Well, we should probably look at the scene because these things tend to be complicated, right? So now we're back to page 17. Back to good old Act 1. We can never get out of. So Hotspur, his first words, as Berger points out, were on 1:328, I think. Can somebody read just the first line of that? Just word it out.
My liege, I did deny no prisoners.
All right, so
It's a lie.
yeah, or is it? So he says that he didn't deny the prisoners, and then what do we get? We get that wonderful excuse, right? And then how's the excuse received by Blunt?
Says, that's a good enough reason.
Yeah, this is legit, man. I can't stand fucking you either. and then the king. It's the king that announces the proviso, right? Hotspur never says this. So the king says, "Why yet he doth deny his prisoners." So Hotspur said, "I do not deny the prisoners." It's the king that says, "You deny the prisoners." And then so let's follow this. That our own charge shall ransom straight, brother-in-law, foolish Mortimer. So, and then turns the topic of the conversation to insulting Mortimer. So Hotspur never gets a chance to say, "No, I'm not denying the prisoners. I'm bringing them to you right now," which it appears to me was exactly what he was doing. So this is weird. And then so then he's insulted Mortimer, and Hotspur's in a position where the topic of the conversation, you can't say, "All right, well, yes, Mortimer." No, he's got to be like, revolted Mortimer, and then this weird, this lovely description of the valiant Mortimer on the battlefield. And what does Berger say about this passage right here? Let's look at it real quick.
He's describing something and putting his honor and his word on something that he
Didn't see, and then gets called on it, right? And the king's just like, he never did encounter with Glendower. And then there he is, like Falstaff, right? We recall this. And then the art thou not ashamed. So this is just right. So how do you think Hotspur feels right now? Anyone ever been caught in just flat out lie? I know you have.
And then he has to justify it. He can't apologize.
Yeah, but he can't. I mean, so it's just. I mean, so if Hotspur is going to be any kind of a man, what's his way out? He can't joke his way out because he's no Falstaff. I can't think of a joke to get out of that. So what are his options?
Tell the truth.
To tell the truth and apologize, and then has to accept the grace and forgiveness from the king, and we know where that puts you. So that's not an option. And then his other option?
Change the subject.
He could try.
Keep up the lie. Keep up the lie.
Stick to it. That's what if you ever get arrested, you stick to your original story till the bitter end, no matter what, no matter how stupid it is.
Thanks for the advice.
I mean, if you're going with the aliens, stick with the aliens. To the bitter end. I mean, they're putting you on the electric chair. Stick with the aliens. So so his options are he could try to change the subject, or deflect it some way, a la Falstaff. He could accept the diminished esteem that he set himself up for.
Immediately point out one of the king's lines.
Yeah, which he does, but behind the king's back, right? The option I'm looking for here is, well, we've got to go to war. you know, like dropping the proverbial gauge to stay with the current slang, dropping the gauge and you throw your glove down. You know what that means?
Do.
When you smack somebody with a glove, you know what that means? Okay. So why does Henry force that situation? I mean, is Henry just all right? So now we have a different hypothesis. Does Henry know what he's doing? So why does he force this situation?
Because he said he's gonna put his foot down.
Okay.
Does he say that later?
Or does he?
Yeah, no, I think he says that. I think he says that at this scene. In fact, this is the king putting his foot down. So what do you think he expects Hotspur to do? But he knows Hotspur. Look at the descriptions of Hotspur.
So he wants to get rid of
To get rid of him or start a war, right? Yeah.
He doesn't want to have this. He wants to be like royal and not have anybody knowing that he wasn't supposed to be king. And it's sort of breaking him down.
Yeah, it's that, or he's just real stupid. And I don't, no great defender of Henry IV am I, but he's not that stupid, right?
Can you just be bored? Like,
I like the bored hypothesis. That's not what we're going with, but hold on to that and treasure it.
Stick to the eggs.
So let's go back to Hotspur. He's up there because we never did figure out what Hotspur's debts were. So from Henry IV, this is when he could have got honors and stuff, right? So what does he owe Henry IV? A big fat wad of nothing, right? And it's hard to say. I think there's a good argument you could make either way who started this fight. But in any case, Hotspur wasn't about to accept any honors, and Henry wasn't about to give any. How about Glendower? Do you know anything to Glendower? Like, he would owe them if, say, an army showed up. Does an army show up? Glendower's army? No. And why does Glendower's army not show up?
Weakness, because that's just like maybe that's how
Possibly. But how does Hotspur treat Glendower? Would you, if you were Glendower, would you go and send troops for this guy?
No.
Yeah, and he was cat may have kittened and would have done the same.
Well, doesn't Glendower, though, sort of obligate Hotspur in a way because he doesn't kill Mortimer, just his brother-in-law?
Possibly.
So he's kind of got that
Yeah.
on a little bit.
Yeah. But does Hotspur owe Mortimer anything?
It's family obligation, though.
Yeah, sort of, but
Not
yeah, apparently not because it's not his fault. And how about his dad? Does he even owe his dad anything? Now this is the one where I feel like fate kind of helps him out here a little bit, and fate makes sure that he doesn't owe his dad anything. But how about Lady Percy? Does he owe? Think of the monkeys. Does he owe Lady Percy anything? No, she's been banished from the bed for a fortnight. His ledger is clear. Yeah.
fun fact, in Renaissance culture, when people, like men and women got married, women were still considered weak, like they couldn't think for themselves, but men were they owed women sexual pleasure by getting married to them.
Yeah, and you see this pop up from time to time, and interestingly enough, it was the only reason in traditional Jewish law that a woman could file for divorce is if she wasn't being satisfied sexually. But yeah, that unfortunately. But yeah, so there is that, which is sort of a counter hypothesis to Simon's thing, and that does show up in pockets, but overall, I think that I feel like I'm convinced of the sort of kind of hardwired underlying something to do with being a primate that makes that establishes the bottom of that particular gift exchange relationship. But yes, duly noted. And I don't know how that was ever enforced though. I mean, you'd be the shrewish wife that goes out and complains about your husband. And then also defying the stereotype of the woman that's supposed to be in their place and not smart. Because nobody hates somebody that's not smart and not in their, or that's smart and not in their place. But so I think that Hotspur probably goes through incredible lengths to avoid owing anybody anything. But and then we get to Harry Berger suggests the paradox of honor is that it's a gift from a third party who recognizes the honorable act. And any gift bestows obligation and makes one subject to the exchange of favors. So, so in this way that, you know, like if you're a military hero and you accept your silver cross, or I don't know anybody know anymore? Purple Heart. You accept your. I wanted something for valor.
Silver Star.
Yeah, sorry. So a Silver Star for valor. When you accept the Silver Star for valor, on the one hand, you're getting honor, but the real honor is going toward the military, right? Because you were fulfilling this higher noble role. So even by accepting that honor, you're actually giving even more honor to the military. You see how that works?
Wait, how is it giving honor to the military?
Well, because you're accepting that honor and going through the formal acknowledgement of it,
Which
and
means,
you're accepting a gift of honor, and so that means that the reason that you were fighting.
Is honorable?
Yeah, so that means that what they were doing is honorable, and that you were serving, you know, within, you were coming to their honorable ends. Just, you know, yeah.
I was going to say, doesn't that, I mean, it proves that despite how much of an accomplished warrior you are, you're still beholden to them, you're still underneath
Right.
the authority.
Absolutely, yeah. You know, like the one giving the honors is the one that's up. So, so even if you take honors, somebody has to recognize them. So that was kind of Hotspur's paradox, right? He's not accepting any honors from anybody, but he's going to go out on the battle and take it. And then so his solution is on page 21. You see, shall it for shame be spoken in these days, or fill up chronicles in times to come? He's going with the sort of historical eye, the chroniclers. You know, like that. If I fight nobly and die on the battlefield, killing princes, which he says it's a glory to die with princes. He doesn't kill any princes. And so he's looking at history to be his third party, and owing history is something that is more palatable to him. And but let's go to 112 real quick. I'm not going to pass the quizzes back today because I see that I spelled that blunt had an alternate spelling in this one, and a lot of you said that the typo was I spelled blunt wrong, and I didn't spell blunt wrong, but they spelled blunt wrong, and so I have to add bonus points to people, so I'm not giving your quizzes back today. Sorry. So Hotspur, oh Harry, thou hast robbed me of my youth. I better brook the loss of brittle life than those proud titles thou hast won from me. They wound my thoughts worse than my sword, my flesh. So I'm going to need a prince to finish me off here. So somebody decide. But thoughts, the slaves of life, and life, time's full, and time that takes survey of all the world, must have a stop. Oh, I can prophesy. This is really hard to do on your dying breath, by the way. But that the earthy and cold hand of death lies on my tongue. No, Percy, thou art dust and food for
worms.
So that didn't turn out too well for him, right? Because there goes his honors taken from history. So slap number 1, he loses to rival. Slap number 2, how does the prince respond? But let my favors hide thy mangled face. Covers him up, gives him a gift after he's dead. Slap number 2. And he can never repay it because he's dead. So he just has to accept the honors on his corpse that history records. And then, of course, you know, slap number 3, the nuclear slap. Lets Falstaff take credit for the kill. So, oh yeah, that's me. And yeah, once again. So we've got Garber for Monday and Act 1. You won't be quizzed on Act 1. But I suggest you not get too far behind so you don't get another one of those having to read 3 acts on a Tuesday because it's too hard.
Do you think that's why Al let all staff take the credit for the kill, so